right, listen up. This Infernus build from Valve's new game, Deadlock, will absolutely 1,000,000% help you win the majority of your games. All right, so lock it in. We got a lot to cover. So what you're going to do first and foremost is when you get into the game, just go into the sandbox and pop up Infernus. And we're going to go into the shop. Now, the tough thing about this game, it's actually not really a tough thing. A great thing about this game is the Browse Builds tab, right? The Browse Builds tab, you go ahead and click the public and you get a bunch of different builds from a bunch of different people who have combined their thoughts and their processes into their builds. The main problem that I run into, however, is a lot of these builds are either outdated, they're cluttered, they're very difficult to understand. It is super confusing. And for a new game, especially such as Deadlock, where you open up the menu and you kind of look at the weapons tab, the vitality tab, and the spirit tab, you're automatically thrown into this massive confusion just because maybe some of them might look similar. Quicksilver Reload kind of looks like Suppressor, and you don't know what builds into what. So as a new player, I wanted to create something for you guys to be as easily understandable as possible. And that's where we get started with my build. So I've done the luxuries for you where I've decided to just take away all the filler, right? And by filler, I mean, if we click this top one that has 132,000 likes and we go to builds, it is just cluttered with so much stuff with no real direction. And it is really confusing of, yeah, you get some early game and you get some optional heals. It's like, oh yeah, sure. No, let's go to my build. So my build, it's cringe. It was called Flame On. I tried to call it Giga Fireman. Just shut up. So we click this and here it is. It is simple. It is easy to understand. And there's a little bit of descriptions that we can go ahead and break down. So on the early game phase, I write, you can build this first, 2K total, but it's okay to build just 3. So when I mean 2K total, there used to be a 4th item here, but I got it removed. Anyway, moving forward from this point, I wanted to basically make this as easy possible and kind of give you a breakdown of how to build it. So let's get into it. In Deadlock, a good indication or a good indicator for you mentally to figure out how you're going to spend your spirit is generally 1,000 spirit per minute is what you're aiming for. So by the 20-minute mark, you should have about 20,000 souls. That is a pretty good player if you're denying farm really well, if you're using the jungle decently enough. I'll make a video on that and how to jungle efficiently, as well as how to clear your camps efficiently, especially in the early game. 20,000 is generally around the area that your build comes online. Well, it's actually really not that difficult to build 20,000 souls in the beginning. It just kind of feels very expensive, but there's a process. So when you start off in the lane, your first 1,000 points that you're going to get, 1,000 spirit, you're going to get a basic magazine and sprint boots. This is just going to increase your ammo so you can poke a little bit more. You're getting weapon damage, and you're just kind of keeping that poke alive, as well as potentially putting the burns on the people. Now, sprint boots is good for the sprint speed, for the health regen, and a little bit of extra weapon damage, which you then can bring later on into the build into enduring speed. Enduring speed reduces movement slow abilities on you by 40%. So let's say you're laning against a Calvin or something like that. It's trying to slow you. 40% reduced. You keep on moving. Not that that's important. We're not really going to build that. Not yet anyway. Our first 1,000 is going to be into these 2 items. This is going to help you poke. You want to focus on farm. Don't really worry too much about kills at this point. Yeah, you can get the poke in there a little bit. This is a beginner's, intermediate, even high tier guide. Your next big item at 3,000 souls you're going to want to save up here is going to be toxic bullets. Now, toxic bullets have it pretty early. It's not bad on Infernus. It's really good. Combined with this burn that already does spirit damage, then you're getting the 5% bleed damage on the spirit. You're basically burning their HP by just getting your auto attacks on them and then walking away. The majority of your damage is coming from that burn in this toxic, especially in the early game. If they decide to push you, we then look at our abilities. So the abilities right here are Spew Napalm that slows enemy movement and amplifies the damage of Infernus does to them. So this increases the damage that your burn does, your weapon damage, everything, right? All that good stuff. But if we look at these two, so these two right here, Catalyst, you do 50 damage. You take damage amplification is 25%. You get a movement slow on them. But at the 5 spirit stack, you get 15% damage amplification and you reduce their healing by 40%. Now, I don't know 100% if this is combined with toxic bullets. If it is, then we're probably looking at a little 100% healing reduction. But if it doesn't stack, you're still getting a ton of healing reduction put on the person. So what that does is you're burning the person, you're doing so much damage. It's great. It's beautiful. Num, num, num. We then move on when we have this toxic bullets, right? This is, again, about 4,000 spirits. We're still in the early game. We're very, at this point, we're probably about 6 minutes in. About 5.5, 6 minutes in. If you've been farming pretty well, that's where we're at. Now, this is where the build kind of gets interesting because you can choose to do whatever you want here. That's the beautiful part of MOBAs, right? MOBAs is we can kind of build how we see fit. Now, if you're taking a lot of bullet damage, let's say you're laning against a haze, you're laning against a pocket. Well, we know if we're laning against the haze, we do bullet armor. We're laning against the pocket, we'll do spirit armor. You don't necessarily have to pick up one of these early. It's nice to have, especially if you're taking a lot of damage and you feel like you're losing your lane. But we could then move into active reload, so that way you can get your shots, you get a little bit of bullet lifesteal. But my recommendation is to go for gold. We're going big, we're going crazy. The faster you get this built, the more online you're going to be. So what I personally like to do, depending on how my lane is going, is if I am taking a little bit of poke and I know I'm going to be farming my lane for the next maybe 5 or 6 minutes, I'll get a bullet armor, I'll get a spirit armor. But my main thing is I'm going for ricochet. Ricochet then procs on all the people that you are fighting. It gives you ammo, it gives you fire rate, it gives you health, and it most importantly hits everybody with your burn. Let's say in a team fight, there's 2 people laning against you, 3 people laning against you. It will bounce on all of them. You're burning every single person. And again, if you combine that with your catalyst, which is going to increase the burn, which is also going to give you some life steal, and this is going to do more damage if you obviously level it up. This does so much damage without doing any work. What I mean by this is if you have ricochet, you can actually shoot from back here, proc the burn and proc the health from the toxic bullets, and you're just gradually winning the fight. Combined with this, if you kill their flag minion, pretty much heals them in lane, it will keep them at a lower HP consistently. So small little tip there. Now when we have ricochet, this is the one item that puts this build completely online, and everything you do after this point is completely up to you. It is situational. I personally like this build because this build I've built to be extremely tanky. HP in this game and tankiness in this game is key. In my opinion, especially in the lower tier brackets or even in higher MMR, the more tanky you are, the scarier you are. So we're going to build leech. Ricochet combined with leech, combined with the items that we've built with toxic bullets, you are going to get health regen on every single thing that you're hitting. The burn is going to be hitting, you're going to be clearing minions faster. You're going to be hitting other, I guess, heroes. And if you get into a team fight and you're shooting all of them, you are doing so much damage to them and you are taking like nothing. You are healing for all the damage that you're hitting for. But this is where the key comes into place. Once we have all of these items that I said, again, after this is all situational, we want to build that tankiness. We already have our damage, right? Let the burn sing, let the toxic bullets do its job, build a bullet armor, build a spirit armor, get some active reload so you get some more lifesteal and you can shoot your gun. Now we're talking about, okay, at this point, what do we do, right? We've built what we've built. I personally like superior duration. Superior duration, I put this on my 3. Put it on the afterburn. The reason you put it on the afterburn is if you read it, it increases the duration of abilities and items. So this would increase this by 32%. So just by shooting them and poking them, that burn will last for 32% longer. You can obviously, if you can't, you can get duration extender, which is a good pickup item, especially it's a pretty cheap, cheaper alternative. But around here, we're probably around 25k souls. We're ramping up to the mid game. We're getting slowly towards that end game. But at this point, if you have these items, you should be absolutely shredding every single person you fight. And the best part about this build is if they try to push you, you have your 1 combined with ricochet, which is getting the burn and the toxic bullets. And you have your ultimate ability if they do push you, You get 100% lifesteal if your ult is maxed out, but don't worry about that. It CCs them. So when it CCs them and you pop that ultimate ability, they just get stunned and you use Ricochet and Team Fight and everything. You're just doing so much damage. But the most important part of this is you're not taking damage. Again, this build that I've built is very straightforward. I cut out as much fluff as I possibly can. So that way, when you look at builds such as this, and you go to the public and you go to the Zeeth Infernus, which is maybe a good build. It was updated on the 31st, which is actually today. It's just confusing. To the newer player, to even the veteran player, I'm about 4 or 5 days in. This to me is like, I would need to know what these items are. Whereas like this build that I've decided, that I've made for you guys is a very straightforward build that doesn't deviate off a path. I'm not giving you extra fluff items that you can grab and pick up. If you want to, you can absolutely look in the Vitality tab and the Spirit tab and the Weapon tab and kind of find something that fits your playstyle. I'm giving you the bread and butter of this game of just, here we are. I'm giving you the easy stuff. I'm giving you the stuff that you could just follow along and be great, right? So once we have all these items, we have Ricochet, we have Active Reload, Toxic Bullets, Basic Magazine. Actually, let's just do this. We're gonna do this, to unlock our flex spots. So let's say we have this, right? This is our build. We're at 87% weapon damage. We built superior duration. We have this. Now, again, I want to be tanky, so I'm getting bullet armor, spirit armor, right? I want to get active reload because active reload is going to help me get my fight in. Now, at this point, again, this is completely up to you. Where you build from this point, this right here is probably the main core of it all. After once you get leech, that's probably the best part, was Ricochet plus leech. Everything else is kind of like bullet armor, spirit armor. If you're doing tons and tons and tons of damage and you're very ahead, okay, we can look at getting maybe a Titanic magazine. We might be getting over, a spiritual overflow. This item is good and everything. I personally just would like maybe build a escalating exposure, maybe a boundless spirit, again, proccing off those burns. Me as well, I would also think about popping up Unstoppable, so that way I can be like a tank for my team, which is diving in there with your ultimate ability and your W, popping Unstoppable. You're literally unstoppable, and you're just kind of like feeding off everybody. But this is, again, you can also do Mystic Slow if they have a haze, if they have somebody that has like an Ivy, for instance, slowing their bullets on you by 40%. So that way, again, your Ricochet is doing a lot of damage. You're taking less damage. They're shooting slower. All of this is going to make you an extreme tank doing tons and tons of damage. Again, bullet armor, improved spirit armor. This right here is going to make you the most unkillable human on this game. Then you could probably get, again, Titanic magazine, Mystic Slow, Unstoppable if you want to be unstoppable. Bullet lifesteal, I would probably get enduring speed. Bullet lifesteal is nice, but again, we have leech. If you're running into like HP issues where you find yourself dying a lot, maybe some bullet lifesteal will be good. But again, remember, your burn and toxic bullets are all spirit damage, so this is all about your shot. Boundless spirit is another one where, again, you get that weapon damage, you get that spirit damage, you get that bonus HP. This is a big, big pickup. Now, what you can do is you want to build slow, extra spirit into improved spirit, which will then get you boundless spirit. Same thing with mystic vulnerability. Now, mystic vulnerability, me personally, this is how I build it. If the person does not have any spirit resist, I'm not going to rush this item. I'm not too sure if the person can go into the negative spirit resist, but during my tests, it didn't increase the damage by so much. It was kind of just one of those items where if they do have spirit resist, then I'll build it, and that way my burns will do more. Now we're talking, maybe more mid-game, this will be a pickup. But if you want, I would probably use Boundless Spirit. Now, having all of these items right here, you're going to be doing so much damage. Like if I were to spawn a couple of these guys in here, this is just the build right here. It just bounces off, doing tons of damage. I don't know how else to explain it, but the burn just goes crazy. This is me shooting this target, and I'm almost killing. Of course, these guys are level 1s and everything like that, but the fact that I'm actually just hitting the burn on them with the... I can't remember which item it was. Makes this happen. But anyway, you do lots of damage, and you're unkillable, and you're super tanky. Now, again, at this point, build how you want to build, but that is basically the basics of it all. Like I said, basic magazine, sprint boots, toxic bullets, ricochet, leech, and then after that, build tanky. That's it. Bullet armor, spirit armor, improved on both, unstoppable, and then get superior duration. Probably superior duration first before the, before the improves. But other than that, I hope that helps you. I hope you pop off. Let me know in the comments below if this helped you win your games, or let me know in the comments that this build sucks major ass and it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But either way, I hope it helps. But seriously, enjoy it. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.